A total of 880 legislative bills have been filed by lawmakers for consideration during this year's 2023 Kentucky General Assembly 30-day session. And those bills range from issues like health care, education, transportation, and many others, including legislation relating to medicinal cannabis, also referred to more commonly as medical marijuana. And at least 37 states and the District of Columbia allow medical marijuana. And we are going to be talking about that as Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear actually signed an executive order that took effect beginning of January 1st of this year that allows possession of up to 8 ounces of cannabis for medical use by individuals who buy it in states where it is legal and have a doctor's statement that they have one of 21 conditions treated with it. And Stephen West of Paris is a Republican state senator who has filed Senate Bill 47, which is an act related to medicinal cannabis. And Senator West, we appreciate you joining us today from Frankfort.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I know that this is not your first time sponsoring a bill related to medical marijuana in the General Assembly. Tell us why you're passionate about carrying this bill.
My journey started about 5 years ago. I had 2 constituents, Eric and Michelle Crawford from Mason County, and they are proponents of medicinal marijuana. And they started educating me on the need for medical marijuana. And I kind of backed into this issue, didn't intend to be involved, but after educating myself, I, along with Representative Sims, filed companion bills that year, and it's been a process ever since.
And tell us a little bit about the bill that you have filed for this session. It's Senate Bill 47, and it's a 155-page bill. But what are some of the top line items that are actually included in the proposed legislation?
It's a very complicated bill. Of the 150 pages, about 70 or 80 are language. It has to be complicated because of the current legalities of marijuana and law enforcement, local governance, things of those natures. But just some of the highlights of the bill: we regulate medicinal marijuana through ABC, Alcohol Beverage Control. They are the ones best equipped to handle this issue. We put provisions in there for law enforcement. How is law enforcement to react to medicinal marijuana? How's medicinal marijuana to be carried? What type of container? What forms can it be in? What is the interplay with doctors? What is the interplay with pharmacists? That's covered in the bill, and many, many other items.
And I know that there is research that is ongoing right now at the University of Kentucky studying the effects of cannabis and marijuana in young adults. I know that you have previously been quoted of saying that you don't believe we should be waiting until the research is done to complete that cannabis research to pass medical marijuana. Explain that to us.
One of the main arguments against medicinal marijuana has been the lack of studies, a lack of phase 3 double-blind studies. And that's a legitimate complaint. However, there have been studies, international studies, that show the efficacy of medical marijuana, and especially in specific situations, seizure disorders, end-of-life care, those type of situations. And so 37 other states have it on the books already. So it's not like Kentucky is breaking new ground in this area. However, the House passed some legislation a few years ago where the legislature would support a study at the University of Kentucky to look into the efficacy of it, and though that study is ongoing.
And I know that many members of your Republican caucus who were previously hard-nosed for passing any related legislation to medical marijuana, they've recently shared that they're becoming more open to the idea of supporting legislation as long as it's a bill that's narrowly defined. Would you say that your bill is that at this point, or is there still some more work to be done to get it closer to getting people to support it?
Well, it's not for lack of content. It's 150 pages, so there's plenty of things that the bill covers. And so, in all honesty, this process is ongoing. If medical marijuana is to pass this session, there will need to be significant changes to my bill. My bill this is the same bill that I filed in 2021. It's a work product, a starting point. So there's room for negotiation both ways. Um, how we arrived here, the first year or two, the first year it died. The second year, we were in a House committee discussing the issue, and the lights started going on. Members of the committee um, opened up and voted yes. And then after that, it's passed the House twice with significant co-sponsors, maybe 70 or 80 co-sponsors. And so my understanding is Representative Nemes basically said, we've done our work in the House. It's time for the Senate to, do what we're going to do, whatever that may be. And so all I've done this session is filed the bill and allowed the process to work out.
And obviously, with this being a 30-day session, you are and other legislators are already halfway through so far. But how optimistic are you about medical marijuana getting assigned to a committee and then going through that process before it ultimately can be heard on the Senate floor?
I'm optimistic, but to be honest, I stopped prognosticating on what the General Assembly would do 3 or 4 years ago. Uh, I'm usually wrong on what I think. A good bill doesn't always get across the finish line, and what I consider bad bills make it. So I really don't know, but I do notice, I can tell you discussions are ongoing on the bill. Um, we have in both chambers, we have several new members, and so they have their own ideas on what we should do about it. So I'm optimistic. There's one, if you allow me to get political for just a minute, I will say there's one thing that that had a significant negative impact on the bill, and that to me that was the executive order from the governor. I think that may, if anything, have slowed down the progress of this bill. And but having said that, you never know. It's working. We're working through channels and having discussions, significant discussions, and we'll just see what happens.
Well, Senator West, we really appreciate you giving some context to your legislation that you have filed in the General Assembly, and we'll be standing by to see how it moves or not in the legislature during this short session.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.